When I was planning to come to the Thomas Mann House, I had a project already planned, a book that I've been working on for some time. And my publisher, Norton, in New York last spring, wrote to suggest that I take up another project. Namely, since I had written a book about evil in modern thought that's become a standard work, they suggested that I write a book about evil now, and particularly in regard to the Trump administration. I was quite uncertain about whether or not it would be possible to write a good book on the subject, and particularly in a short amount of time, but I decided to try. So I came to the Thomas Mann House with about a third of a book titled Call It Evil, Understanding the Trump Era. I've been struck by the fact that the worse the second Trump administration gets, the milder our language becomes. And it's quite striking that both American and international media have stopped using the word fascism, which just a little more than a year ago was used by no less than General Mark Milley, Donald Trump's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during his first administration, who said that Trump was fascist to the core. People have stopped using that word. They've stopped talking in moral terms, and they've begun talking about authoritarianism. You notice it's really hard to say. I mean, it takes twice as long to say as the word fascist, and it's much milder. But we are not going to make fascism any more pleasant because we use a more pleasant word. So I worked like crazy in the Thomas Mann House, ignoring a lot of the pleasures that my fellow fellows were able to enjoy. But I did finish the book in time for it to be published before the US midterms. It'll also come out in German in the fall, and in 7 other countries at the moment. And I'm relieved that I think I've found a way to discuss the underlying ideas, not that explain Donald Trump. I wasn't interested in doing that. He's much less interesting as a human being than he thinks he is. And, there's a lot of talk increasingly now about whether or not he's simply psychotic, and I'm not interested in psychological diagnoses. No, I'm not interested in psychological diagnoses. What interested me was the question, knowing what we all know about Donald Trump during his first term, how is it possible for the American people, or at least 49% of them, to elect him twice? What are the ideas that we have come to take for granted that makes his behavior seem, well, a little unusual, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that would require calling it evil? So I finished the book a week before leaving, and whether it will do any good whatsoever in the US midterms is anybody's guess when you have a president fantasizing about spraying shit on his opponents. The question that confronts every writer is, do words matter at all in this moment? But if I can sound an alarm and provide a little bit of light into the discussion, I'll be happy. It was very, very weird at first. Unheimlich is the German word, to be writing this in Thomas Mann's house, because you have this absolutely gorgeous, peaceful, luscious environment, and you're writing about fascism. And you realize, or I realized, actually this is what Thomas Mann and many of his friends and colleagues in the neighborhood were doing 80 years ago. That is, they were sitting in this very strange, almost contradictory situation. I have often wondered whether the fact that Adorno and Horkheimer wrote Dialectic of Enlightenment while they were sitting just around the corner, basically, if the contrast between what they were writing about and the environment was a source of trouble for them, and a source of trouble in that book. I think it's a very problematic book, by the way. But in any case, it felt a bit as if the ghosts of the exiles were in the air, so to speak, at the Thomas Mann House. And I felt honored to be in their presence, let's say, although dismayed that in many ways we're still talking about the same problems, they just happen to be in another country. As far as the most important experience for me, well, finishing a book. I did watch my colleagues here go off to enjoy LA culture and LA nature, and had to say thanks but no thanks to most of the invitations. It's lovely that the Thomas Mann House does organize events for the fellows, introduces us to interesting people in LA culture. I have to say, even though I was born in the US, I have always had a bit of a antipathy towards Los Angeles. For me, it's less symbolized by culture than by Kim Kardashian. And so it was very nice to get a different picture of LA through the Thomas Mann House. If I had to name one event that I hope the Thomas Mann House will continue in some form, it was the workshop that we did at the LAPD, LA Poverty Department, not Police Department, along with the invitations to directors of museums and other interesting people of that sort. It really was good to get a chance to talk with people who are homeless or people who are working with homeless people. I would suggest that it's necessary if you're living in Pacific Palisades, which is a wealthy and sheltered environment. It was really, really interesting to interact with the artists and residents of this homeless organization. So that was quite memorable, among other things.